Hello, everybody, and welcome to a quick overview of my Board Game Geek Roll and Write 2024 contest entry, Our Favorite People, the game about making a wedding seating chart, inspired by the fact that I recently had to do this for my own wedding. So today I'm going to run through a quick overview of what is in our files, which you can access by going to the Board Game Geek contest, and the link is on there that will take you to a Google Drive that has the rules, all the print and play files, and everything else that you would need to physically print this out and play it. I also created a tabletop simulator mod for this. I think it should work for the most part. So we're going to work our way through that and just getting a game set up and a brief rundown of the rules. I'm going to have the rules side by side here. That way you can follow along as we're doing this. But basically, if you were printing this out, you would just need to print either the endgame goals or the multiplayer goals for solo or multiplayer, a set of guest cards. There are 72 of them, so just know that might take you a little while, which is why the tabletop simulator mod does exist. There's rules, and then you need one score sheet per person. So the overview of this game is you said yes, and now it's time to plan your big day. Can you curate the perfect guest list to maximize the use of your limited seating? Guests are happy to attend, but would be even happier if seated in their favorite spots. How well can you seat your favorite people? Our Favorite People is a flip and write game where you work to design the most optimized wedding seating chart, invite the right balance of friends and family, brides and grooms guests, and people to fill your tables. Each round, players will select and place available guests, trying to meet their wishes and as well as their own. Do this optimally, and you will surely have the best seating chart around. So to win, you need to have the most points by the end of the game. Points are scored a couple of different ways. So first up is having tables with the same type of guests, having the same number of each type of guest, so think like bride's friends, groom's family, etc., filling up your tables, completing endgame bonuses, and fulfilling guest wishes. Be warned, some guests are picky, and failure to meet their requests will result in penalties. So as we went through the components list already, you need one set of the guest cards, you need one set of endgame goal cards, and one score sheet per person. You will also need 5 writing utensils of different colors. These can either be shared by all players, or each player can have a set of their own. If they have a set of their own, it's completely fine if I have 5 different colors from my friend that's playing. You're going to assign a color to each thing for your specific score sheet, so you can either share or have your own, whatever works better for you. Completely fine. So we're going to go to setup here in Tabletop Simulator so you can see what this looks like. So if you are playing this, you can either pick single or multiplayer. We'll do single just because it's just me. In the workshop, you can find Our Favorite People. We'll load that bad boy in there. And this is what the game looks like. This is set up for 2 people, but you could play with 1 if you wanted to. So as you can see, there's 2 score sheets here. I also scripted this so that way if you wanted to have it automatically set the game up for you. So if we're playing a solo mode, we'll hit the setup for solo button. It's going to then deal out our cards and our end game goals here as well. I'm going to be able to zoom in a little bit more for this now, so that way we can see it a little bit better. Try to straighten that out. And then this will be our board. So initially when you're playing, you are going to assign each color. There's a spot here for bride's family, bride's friends, groom's family, groom's friends, mutual friends. Each one of these should get a color assigned to it. So in Tabletop Simulator, you would go here, take your pen, and then kind of color in whatever color you're going with here. Then you can change your colors. So I am going to actually just stick with the colors I've been using for all of this. So bride's family, I have as a purple color, not white here. This is obviously a lot easier with a physical pen than with Tabletop Simulator, but this is the best that I could come up with to make a digital version. Bride's family is pink. Groom's family I had as blue. And groom's friends were yellow. I'm just picking the pre-existing colors so that way I don't have to worry about changing them, and then I will actually use that. I can't use white because you won't be able to see it too well on the chairs, so I will use a green, which will not match the other colors, but that's fine. For our mutual friends. The next thing you can see on here is we have types of seats. So each seat around here either has a specific type or a non-specific type depending on the seat that it is. So you have seats that are near the buffet, which have these purple hexagons, seats that are near a window with the yellow squares, seats that are near the dance floor, which are these orange ones around the outside, seats near the dessert table are these 5 up here, seats near the DJ are these 5 at the bottom, and seats near the bar are down here as well. If a seat does not have a shape assigned to it, it is just a basic seat. It doesn't have a specific requirement. This is important because some guests will want to sit in certain seats. And obviously, as you can see, these are limited. There are 70 different seat choices. The Mr. and Mrs. are solely decorative. You cannot place people there. That's where the bride and groom sit. So you want to make sure that you are mindful of where you are placing people because you do want to try to optimize where your guests are seated according to their preferences. And you have some reminders at the top over here, which we'll talk about as we go through the game. I am going to just scroll down our rules here as we go along, so that way we can make sure we're following along with everything. So the overview of the game is players are going to take their turns simultaneously, where until at one point somebody cannot place 2 of the guest cards. At that point, the game is going to end. So each round, one player is going to reveal 3 guests, and all players need to seat 2 of those guest cards. They need to seat all of the members of that party on their board, and if they can't do that, the game, like I said, is going to end if somebody that's playing is unable to seat 2 full parties. Everybody else will be able to finish out their turns in that round, and the game will come to a conclusion. You do need to seat 2 guests even if you do not want to. So let's look at the cards here. If your guests have multiple people on the card, so if we zoom in over here, just click off of this so that we can try to, nope, spacebar resets it. Come over here. We'll just zoom in. Okay, so cards. There are a couple different types of cards in the game here. And the first thing that you can look at is the number of people that are on the card. There is an icon at the top with a big person and a little person. Big people is how many adults are on the card, and little person is how many kids. So this is a party of 7, so 2 adults, 5 kids. This is a party of 1 adult, and X means there are no kids, and 2 adults, no kids. The next part on the card is whether or not they are the bride's friends, bride's family, groom's friends, group of friends, mutual family. That's what the colors will help indicate. As you play, you'll start to recognize them, but they do say it underneath as well, so you know what family member they are. Then we have 2 types of cards. As you can see here, the Madisons don't have any text underneath. They are just a neutral family who is happy to come. If you place them, they are bride's friends attending your wedding. Emily over here, however, has an icon and some numbers underneath. The numbers underneath indicate whether or not a guest has a specific requirement, and if you meet it, what points you'll gain, and if you don't meet it, what points you will lose. So for example, Emily over here wants a seat that is not next to the window. So any arrow that is pointing away from something means they do not want to sit there. If the arrow is flipped and facing the other way, it would mean they want to sit next to the window. So you can place Emily in any seat that is not a yellow square seat, and she will be happy. If she's happy, she scores you 5 bonus points. If she is seated in one of those yellow seats, you lose 5 points. So this is easy to do at the beginning of the game. However, as the game goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to place people according to their preferences. The Bennetts also is another example of a group that wants to be away from the bar. That's what that icon is. At the end of the rules, there is a whole little iconography section for you to try to make it simple. So you got a little icon over here. So we have things they want to sit near the dessert table. This is where we're talking about the arrow faces toward it when they do want to sit there, and away from it when they don't, away from the dessert table, near the buffet, away from the buffet, near the bar, away from the bar, near the dance floor, away from the dance floor, near the windows, away from the windows, near the bride and groom. Nobody wants to sit away from the bride and groom, so that one doesn't exist. Away from the DJ, same thing. Most people don't really want to sit next to the DJ. Then we have icons that have either green or red chairs. The green ones indicate that that's a space that they would like to sit at the table. So they want to sit at one of the end seats. So if they're on any of the corner seats of that table, they would be happy. Red is they do not want to sit on the end seat, and similar for the middle. So if the middle one is highlighted, it is only the very middle seat that counts. Then we have they want to sit across from their date, meaning that if I put somebody here and they wanted to be across from their date could be right here, they would be happy. If they were seated next to them, they would not be happy. The opposite of that, they want to sit in the same row. So they would be next to each other. Sometimes this is a party of two, sometimes it's a larger party as well. Or finally, they do not want to sit adjacent to the kids' table, which we will talk about now. So remember, your object, you're placing two sets of these people each round. So, seating requirements. If your guest card has multiple guests in a party, all the people must be seated at the same table, unless the party has kids. You can choose to sit the kids at a kids table. All the guests of that party, or of the party that are not at the kids table, must be orthogonally adjacent to each other at the table, meaning up, down, left, right. So for example, if I was placing the Madisons here, as we mentioned, there are 7 of them. They could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They couldn't be like a group of 4 over here and a group of 3 over here. Somehow they all need to touch each other. They could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 because they would make a U and they'd all be somehow connected to each other. That's fine. However, as I mentioned, there is also a kids table option. Kids tables only apply to groups that have kids in them. If you're an adult only, you can't ever sit at the kids table. So the breakdown is shown over here. And based on the kids in the party, you can choose to sit as many or as few of them as you would like at a kids table. In order to do that, first you need to create a kids table. This icon at each of the tables, you would just fill in to designate the fact that it is now going to be a kids table. You can only do this for a completely empty table. If there are already people sitting there, you can't make a kids table because there are already adults at that table. So if you want to make a kids table, say I wanted to seat 3 of the Madison kids at a table because I could only find a spot for 4 adults next to each other, or 4 people, not just adults, at a table next to each other already. So I'm going to break them up and send the 3 little ones to the kids table. So I can fill this in, place the 3 kids here, and then place the parents and the other 2 siblings at another table together, following the normal placement rules. Again, when you're seating the kids at the kids table, they don't really care if they are like following the same rules as their family. So if they did have rules on here, say they were at a table where they wanted to be near the buffet, the kids don't need to follow that rule if they are at the kids table. If they're seated with their family like normal, they do need to follow the normal placement rules. What's next on here? I think that kind of mostly covers the kids tables. So when you are seating them, each guest requires 1 seat. To assign them a seat, you're going to color them in the color that matches their guest type. So for example, if I was using these Madisons up here, they're the bride's friends. I assign them a pink color. So all 7 of their seats, I am going to color in pink on this seat right here. So if I wanted to place them just say at this table, so table number 2, I will take my pink color back, apply that here, and I could color, oh, that is not pink. We're going to pretend with that turned pink. Come back over here. All right, so for all intents and purposes, they don't have a specific seating requirement, but we color in 7 of these. So 4, 5, yeah, you know what, we'll pretend we put 5 of them here, and we'll pretend we made a kids table. So we will say that this is going to be the kids table. We'll color this in, and then we'll seat the 2 kids here and here. So now everybody has a seat. If I had been placing Emily, I would be coloring it in purple and just coloring in 1 singular seat. So going along with this, so once you've seated the people, so we're going to seat 2 cards per table, per round. So as you're seating them, not only do they need to fit at the table, you also want to keep in mind, guests like to sit at tables with guests of the same type. For example, the bride's family wants to sit with the bride's family. Groom's friends want to sit with the groom's friends. Have you ever been to a wedding before and sat at a table with a whole bunch of people you've never met? yeah, they're not going to be super happy about that. So as you're placing them, you are going to be trying to seat them with guests of a similar type. Scrolling down, we're zooming out on both sides here. Okay. Some guests, as I mentioned, do have their own seating preferences. So for example, if for my next person, Emily Turner, if I was placing her, I could take this purple color because she is the bride's family, and she wants to be somewhere that's not near a window. If I seat her at this table, she's with a bunch of the bride's friends. She might not be super happy about that. So instead, maybe I will place her over here in a non-window seat. So she's next to a window seat, but not in the window seat. And because of that, she's going to earn 5 bonus points. So down here, I would just come down and mark off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The orange is just to indicate the 5 and the 10 to make it a little bit easier for as you're going across. If I had lost those 5 points, I would indicate them in the penalty spot instead. So if I had placed Emily in one of these yellow seats, she would lose the points and we'd mark them down there. So we went through the different types, but just a quick overview of the seating types. So basically, there are people that want to sit either near or away from specific types of seats. So the buffet, the windows, the bar, etc. Then there are people who wish to sit away from the kids' table. That means if I designate a table as a kids' table, and a guest does not want to be next to the kids' table, they could not be adjacent at either of these tables, not just the row next to them, but at the entire table. So if I had a guest right now that didn't want to be at the kids' table, they obviously can't go at table 3 because that is now a designated kids-only table. No adults can go there. But they could go at tables 1, 7, 6, or 5. If they were at tables 2 or 4, they would not be happy because they are adjacent to the kids' table. The other one is general location. So that's, as I mentioned before, they might want to sit on an end seat or the middle seat. The middle seat is only this spot right here. However, if they did not want to sit on an end seat, they could sit in any of these because it's not specifically the middle seat that they are requesting. Then we have people who want to sit next to the bride and groom. So that's, they want to be at tables 1 or table 7. They want to be at the table that is closest to the bride and groom. And then location to their party, as I mentioned, if they want to be across from each other, they will be opposite each other at the same table, or if they want to be in the same row, they'll be at the same row at the same table. As mentioned, this is a purely decorative table. It is not for seating of guests. The chairs actually say Mr. and Mrs., so don't put people there. The one thing I do want to indicate, though, we haven't talked about them yet, but the mutual friends. So mutual friends count as guests of either the bride or the groom. These guests should have their own color on their sheet, but when scoring, they can count either as the bride's friends or the groom's friends for the guest type, balanced guest list, end game bonuses, etc. So card anatomy, we kind of went through this already, but basically you have the number of people in the party, adults and kids at the top. It will match the image. It's just made so that way it's easier if you don't feel like counting them. You'll have what type of group they are based on what's on the banner. And then color-wise, it will also indicate it so that way it's a little bit easier to see. You'll have if they have a requirement or not underneath, and then if they do have a requirement, the positive and negative points you will get from either completing or failing to complete that. So these are just some examples. If you are confused about any of them, feel free to peruse the rules for examples there. So bonuses and table numbers. Each table has a number and a bonus associated with it. The table number is written over here, so that number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and inside of that, or around that, is a circle. If you fill in all 10 seats at that table, you can circle that, and you will get the bonus that is listed on the table to use on a future turn. You cannot use it immediately, but you can use it on a future turn. You can use more than one bonus in a turn should you have multiple available. At the end of the game, any unused bonuses do not earn you any bonus points. So let's quickly run through these. So first up, table 1's bonus is remove a seat. So if you achieve this in the future, you could cross off a seat at the table and make that table only a 9-seat table now instead of 10. That's helpful because at the end of the game, for each completed table that you have, you're going to score 10 points. So it's a way to fill up a table if you're one guest short. Then you have invite one more party. So normally you have to invite 2 of the 3 parties available. Say you wanted to invite all 3, you could use that bonus. Mine is one family guest. If you were inviting either a bride's family member or a groom's family member, you can choose to take one less guest, provided you are still taking at least one guest. So for example, you couldn't use that on Emily Turner because she would be by herself. But the Bennetts, you could say we're actually only going to place one of them. You couldn't use it on the Madisons because they are friends and not family, but you could just choose to place one, so it allows you to augment how many you are placing for that. These are all one-time bonuses, so once you do use them, so say I had collected this one, I filled up the whole table, I would circle it on the outside, then when I use it, I would cross it off. That way I know I've completed it. Friends or family is table 4's bonus. So when you are selecting a party, you can choose to take the bride's friends or the groom's friends of that party as family instead. You cannot take mutual friends as family. Parties still need to match their side. For example, if you were placing the Daltons and you had achieved this bonus, rather than coloring in 2 seats for the groom's friends, you could color them as though they were the groom's family. So that would work here for like the Madisons. You could turn all 7 of them into the bride's family and make them count as bride's family, which is helpful when you're trying to balance your guest list if you have too many of one type and not enough of another. Table 5 is just a straight 5-point bonus, so at the end of the game, if you completed this table, you'll earn 5 extra points. Table 6, a guest gets a +1. So this is if you have a party with a single person, so like Emily Turner right here, if you placed her, you could fill 2 seats instead of 1, so she gets to bring a guest. And finally, table 7 is very similar to table 2, rather than inviting one more party, you can take one less party. So you can take 1 party instead of 2. So again, you get these by filling up all 10 seats at a table, or 9 seats if you had used your remove a seat bonus to cross out a seat at the table. If I had used this bonus, typically what you do, you just when you collected it, you'd circle it. When you're using it, you cross it off, and then you can just cross out a seat, and you no longer need to sit a guest there. Then we have endgame bonus cards. So these are the things that got dealt at the beginning. There are 12 different ones for the solo mode and 12 for multiplayer. But basically, these are bonuses that you collect at the end of the game or during the game, depending on the bonus. So for this one, if I sat less than 12 of the bride's family at the end of the game, I get 10 points. I earn 60 points. If I earned more than 60 points from party bonuses, I'd get an extra 10 points. If I filled an entire table with the bride's friends, I'd get 10 points. So you do these, you complete them, great. Some of the multiplayer ones are whoever does this first. If multiple people do it in the same round, they split the amount of points that are on that card. Solo won't have any of those. And then scoring. So when a player can no longer place 2 guest cards, the game ends for everybody that round. All other players seat their 2 guests unless they are unable to, then they just place 1. If they are not able to place any guest cards, they don't place any. And once the final guests are placed, move on to scoring. So each category is scored down here below. So first up, we have guest type. So you're going to score each table individually. So you have tables 1 to 7 over here. So you gain 2 points for each guest in the largest color group of that guest type. Put that number in the box with the lilac arrow, and then this should actually be the opposite. You gain 1 point for each, I switched this a minute ago. So you gain 1 point for each guest of your largest color group, and then you lose 2 points for each guest of your second largest color group. So let me explain what this looks like. So say I had this table over here, and we had 2. I'm just going to color these in so that way we can pretend we had them filled in with people. And that is not what I was trying to do. As you can see, I'm clearly not super skilled in Tabletop Simulator, so thank you for bearing with me. All right. So you gain 1 point for the largest color group at that table. So this one is clearly the bride's friends. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. So you're going to gain 7 points. So you would write 7 in table 1. Then you're going to lose 2 points for the second largest color group, which happens to be the bride's family, which is this purple one over here. So you have 2 of those, you lose 2 points per each of them. So you're going to lose 4 points. The last one doesn't matter. You're only worried about the biggest and the second biggest of the color groups. So table 7 essentially is going to net you 3 points for doing well. So the more guests of the same type that you can get at a table, the better. You really don't want to have your tables split too much. Okay, so then you have balanced guest list. So you're going to do this for each of those tables. Total up your scores down here for highest amount and lowest amount. You will subtract that one or this from that number. Balanced guest list. Next, you're going to count up how many brides family you have, how many grooms family you have, how many brides friends you have, how many grooms friends you have. And this is where you can count your mutual friends, again, toward either the bride's friends or the groom's friends. So for example, if you had 20 seats that were the bride's family, 17 that were the bride's friends, 16 that were the groom's family, and 12 that were the groom's friends. Your largest group would be the bride's family. So let's just put these on here so you can see if you had 20, sorry, this is a little hard to read, 17, 16, and 12. So you're going to subtract your smallest group from your largest group. So I would take 20 minus 12, and that gives me 8. So I would be losing 8 points because that is the difference between my biggest group and my smallest group. Filled tables. For each completely filled table, you're going to get 10 points. So say I had completely filled 5 of my tables, I would gain 50 points. Over here. And then your end game bonuses. So for argument's sake, say I had completed my table 5 bonus. I got that. At some point I filled up all the seats. I gained the 5 points here. So I would put that on there just that way I remember I get them. And say I had completed bonuses 1 and 3. So I'd gain 10 points from that and 10 points from that. I do know all of those happen to say 10. Some have other point values. They're not all 10. So I don't get that one. I get this one. So my bonuses section, I'm earning 25 points, 5 from the table 5 bonus and 20 points from the end game bonuses. Then finally, we are going to tally up the amount of points you gain for party bonuses and party penalties. Reminder, again, these are from how well you seated your guests. And you would add up the amount of party bonuses and then you'd subtract the party penalties and total that whole thing up. And whoever has the highest score wins. If you're playing in a solo mode, I recommend tracking how well you did initially and then trying to beat your score going forward. So I just want to show you one cool thing with Tabletop Simulator. So if you've played on this before, you know you can, at the end of a round, like drag your cards out of the way, discard them up here, put out new cards. I do have a button though, so if you hit this button, it will just deal out the new cards each round. So you can just, as you place them, deal, and you don't have to worry about doing that. There's more than enough guests that you should not run out of the deck, but if you do at some point run out of the deck, shuffle and redeal. And that's everything. So long story short, too long, didn't read. If you wanted to just skip to this part of the video, basically you're going to deal out 3 endgame goals to deal out 3 cards. Each round you're going to place 2 of these parties onto your board. You can only place them if they fit at a table completely, orthogonally touching at least one other guest of their party. You can put kids at a kids table should you have one available. You can have more than one kids table, but you will never be able to place any adults at those tables. And at whatever point in the game, you can no longer place 2 of the 3 available guests unless you have the take 1 party less bonus available to you. The game will end at the end of that round. Whoever has the highest score wins. And that is our favorite people. Thank you so much for checking out my video. I will hopefully be making this with a physical prototype one day because it will be easier to kind of show you. I ordered all the cards from the Game Crafter just now, so hopefully they'll be here soon. If you will be at PAX Unplugged 2024 and you want to come playtest this, I will be at Unpub. So feel free to come find me. We'll have some fun. And thanks again. Have a nice day, everybody. Bye.